Steel City. Is everybody ready to go? Let's proclaim the greatest radio show.
Welcome, fans. You are listening to The Spread. I am JDash. If any of you are wondering where Jim has been, he's been very busy recently. He got a new job.
Job?
Yeah, new job. And you'll be hearing from him within the next couple of weeks. And we haven't really been talking much football because he's been so busy. So I figured this was a good time to come up to Greene County and talk to RG2 like we did last season. We're going to talk some Pittsburgh Steelers. We're going to just talk about what their roster looks like at this point in the offseason. So we're just going to start off with quarterbacks, and obviously we have Big Ben. What about our backup quarterback, though? What are you thinking about there?
Well, I think they're in trouble. I think they know they're in trouble. I felt like they tried to address the backup quarterback with Landry Jones. I think they saw some growth in Landry Jones, but he is nowhere near where he needs to be.
Yeah, if you ask me, he's garbage, man.
Yeah, he's not afraid to throw the ball, but unfortunately he's having a hard time reading defenses.
Yeah, he's not afraid to throw the ball to the other team, I tell you that.
And when looking at we'll get into the draft a little later, but looking at what they've done so far, they've interviewed over 4 quarterbacks already. So, again, I don't think they're real happy right now with the situation.
Well, what round would you be thinking quarterback? Not first round, or would you first round if he's there?
Well, you always have to think of quarterback. I know for years, one thing that Kevin Colbert always said was, this year we will not draft a quarterback first round. That was the only thing he ever said, that he wouldn't draft in the first round. However, I haven't heard that out of him this year. And if the right person's there, it's a possibility. However, through the interview process, they've been looking at guys in the 6th, 7th round.
It makes more sense that way, obviously, when you have a quarterback of Big Ben's caliber. But I've been saying for a couple years now, if you really believe your guy is there, that's your pick, how do you pass him up? It's so hard to find quarterbacks, and they wanted Big Ben real bad in that draft that they took him, and they got him, and he worked out great. But if you find that quarterback again, I would have no problem doing it, but they need so much help defensively this year. It is going to be tough if he's there, and we're talking about
Paxton Lynch.
Paxton
Lynch would be the guy that would be there. A little comparison to Big Ben. He's got the size, got the arm strength, a little bit more athletic. He can run fast, but, we'll get more on that with the draft segment. But it's a guy that they have to at least consider it. But, he would sit on the bench for,
4 years.
5 years.
Big Ben has 4 years left on his contract, correct?
Yes. And, but so did Aaron Rodgers.
The way Big Ben looked last year, I wouldn't be surprised if he couldn't make it through another year.
Yeah, he took a beating, but that's, and again, we sat here and we talk about, Ben getting sacked, but that's how Ben plays the game. I mean, he plays the game, extending plays.
And really, the offensive line helped him out a ton last season. I love how the offensive line is set up right now.
Yeah, and I think part of that has to be credited to Mike Munchak. Since he's got here, I've noticed a big difference with, the offensive line play. And I think they've added some depth value there as well. So,
all right, so you got Big Ben as your starting quarterback, no problems there. But Landry Jones, if Big Ben would happen to go down again this season, I mean, they're in serious trouble. You cannot win with Landry Jones. I know last season without Big Ben, they went 2-2 between Michael Vick and Landry Jones or whatever, and neither one looked that great. But it's hard to trust Landry Jones at quarterback. Every time he drops back to pass, I think he's going to throw an interception. And I think his last pass in a game was an interception, correct?
Yes, it was.
Believe it.
And don't worry, Michael Vick's still out there. Just kidding. No, Bruce Gradkowski is still out there. Said he would only play for the Steelers. So he's always a fallback guy.
I wouldn't mind him. I like veteran quarterbacks as your backup.
Yeah, but that could push Landry to either 2 or 3. I don't think Landry's done yet, but I think when his contract's up, I cannot see them re-signing him. And like I said, with the interview process already, they've been looking at quarterbacks, so we'll have to see what happens here in the draft.
Well, how about running back? You got Le'Veon Bell, obviously. He needs to stay healthy for a full season. We really need him in the playoffs. I mean, it's been 2 seasons in a row now. We haven't had him in the playoffs, and it showed. it's hard to win in the playoffs to begin with. And a guy of Le'Veon Bell's caliber, I mean, you need him in that game. Not that D'Angelo Williams was terrible by any means. I mean, D'Angelo turned out to be a beast for the Steelers last season. And I think going forward, they're going to try to give Le'Veon Bell less touches, I would have to believe. I mean, you figure he catches 90 balls in the passing game. You give him 250-plus carries during the season. I mean, you're going to run that guy into the ground, really. But how long are we even going to have Le'Veon Bell?
Well, and that's a big question. It's a really good question. I mean, coming in last year, the big thing was, why draft a running back? When D'Angelo Williams was signed, a lot of people were saying, why? I mean, how can you take Le'Veon Bell off the field? He's a first, second, third, and fourth down running back. I mean, he's the complete package. But on the other hand, like you said, we need him for the playoffs. And, running him, 250 times and catching it out of the backfield 40, 50 times. Yeah. I mean, that's, 4,000 all-purpose yards is 4,000 all-purpose yards. It's like 4,000 miles on a vehicle. It's 4,000 miles. You're using it. So I know they're already talking about being smarter with him this year. Working D'Angelo Williams in, and whoever else they're going to fill on their roster. I know Fitzgerald Toussaint's back. I know I still hear him talking about the fumble, but he showed some good things for a young guy.
I was really happy with the way Toussaint played last season, and I would love him as a number 3. They brought in Darrell Richardson, though, who, I mean, he wasn't a bad running back for the Rams either, so I see them fighting in training camp for the number 3 running back position.
Yeah, I think Darrell Richardson could be a guy that you got to watch. I mean, he was actually a starter for the Rams at one point.
Yeah.
I mean, when of course it was the Rams before they got Gurley, but I mean, Darrell Richardson can play. And
it's so surprising to me that Le'Veon Bell's only 24 years old right now.
Yeah,
this is his last year under contract, correct?
He has this year and. This is it. Yeah, you're right.
That would be it. So they'll probably franchise him after this season.
Yeah, franchising a running back smart because running backs don't make big-time money. So the franchise tag on a running back, I believe this year would be about $7.5 million a year. So, I mean, it's a lot of money to pay a guy a year.
Little higher next season, maybe $8 million, something like that. But after that, I mean, you're going to have to sign him to a huge contract considering how good of a player he is. And the way the running back position works in the NFL, guys don't last too long. So would it be smart to sign him to a long deal? Or would it just be smarter to say, you know what, this guy's a great running back, but we got to move on. We need more needs around the field than just paying so much money to that position.
I haven't seen him sign running backs long term. That's the one thing I can say about the Steelers. And D'Angelo Williams is a perfect example. You can find a running back pretty much anywhere. I know Le'Veon Bell is special, but it's going to come down to this. You have Le'Veon Bell, you got David DeCastro, and you got Antonio Brown. I'm going to say 2 out of 3. So you pick the 2 out of the 3.
Well, you franchise one, you sign one long term, and you let one go.
Well, I think both will be signed, but you can't sign all 3 long term. I think franchise tag could work. I think some things need to be maneuvered.
I mean, how many times can you franchise a guy? Twice? Or is it 3 times?
You can do it twice.
Twice.
It's twice now, yeah. And they got money wrapped up in Le'Veon Bell, but he does have to put a full year in. I don't know how you can sign him to big time money if he's not going to make it a full year. And I'm saying this too about Marquise Pouncey. How do you keep paying Marquise Pouncey money when he hasn't made it? And he can be the best center in the league. If you're not on the field, it's not doing much good. So,
and he's on the field less than anyone.
Yeah. So I think, I think there still might be a guy in the draft that they might look at also, but I don't think it's going to be, I mean, they're in pretty good situation right now. They take it with a grain of salt, and next year they're going to, when the time comes, they'll do what they need to do at the running back position. But I just, I got a bad feeling that, Bell's not going to get the long-term contract that everybody wants him to get.
And I wouldn't blame him for not doing it. So you got Bell, though, and you got D'Angelo Williams for this season. Your backfield is pretty much set. But who would you go with for that third option? Would it be Richardson or would it be Toussaint?
Well, I think Toussaint's got the advantage. And Darrell Richardson didn't sign for big-time money. He's on a future contract, so, that's leagueman. You let him battle it out. Competition's good. And I also think they're going to bring in a rookie to shake things up a little bit. Depends on what you're looking at with that third running back. Between D'Angelo and Le'Veon, I mean, they can do it all.
Right.
You got a first, second, and third down back there. So it's hard to say what they're going to do with the third running back. But Toussaint showed a lot out of the backfield. I mean, as a rookie, he played 3 games and one happened to be a playoff game. So, I mean, he's got to get some more experience. But I think he showed enough to.
I like Jordan Todman too. You said he did sign somewhere else.
He signed somewhere else. Yeah, I'm not sure who signed him. I saw the other day that
I really liked what he gave them last season as well. The same with Toussaint. I mean, none of them did anything spectacular by any means, but they both held their own when they got the chance.
Yeah, other than the big fumble from Toussaint, I mean,
right.
That was a big fumble, and you don't want those guys to hurt you, but in that case, it did, and that's kind of how he's remembered right now. But he did some good things too. I mean, he caught a touchdown pass out of the backfield. It was pretty impressive for a rookie to run that route, which was a choice route. It wasn't designed that way. He read the open spot, and Ben put it right on the money as usual. But that's something that pretty impressive for a rookie.
All right. Well, how about the wide receiver position? Obviously, you have one of the best wide receivers in the game, if not the best, in Antonio Brown. And I always remember Big Ben talking about, we need a tall receiver. He wants a tall receiver so bad. And then Antonio Brown comes along, and you really don't hear that out of Big Ben anymore, that you need a tall receiver.
No, and I think you got to take lessons from the New England Patriots. I mean, Tom Brady, through all the Super Bowls, they never had really a tall receiver. Randy Moss was an exception, but they weren't really winning Super Bowls with Randy Moss, a ton.
Deion Branch, Super Bowl MVP.
Yeah, Julian Edelman. They just signed... another guy, small
Wes
guy.
Welker was tiny.
And they just signed Nate Washington the other day. He's not a very tall guy either. They like small guys. In the NFL, it's, height's not everything. It's about running routes. If you run good routes, you're going to make good plays. And that's where Antonio Brown excels. His acceleration and his route running and then the yards after the catch is very dangerous.
What would you think about putting him into the slot position if you could find 2 good outside receivers? Do you think it'd be better for him to be at the slot, or do you like him on the outside?
I like him on the outside because he gets vertical.
He does.
And
that's why
it's hard. Yeah, it's hard to run vertical when you're in the slot. The only time you would want to put him in the slot is if you don't want him to get jammed off the line. You can motion him around a little bit, let him work.
See, I want 2 receivers like a Martavis Bryant, which we aren't going to have one receiver like that this season. But I want those guys on the outside, and I want Brown in the slot because he can do everything, and you can get him the ball quick, and he can make a play with it. You know what I mean? Like if you put someone like Martavis Bryant or Sammy Coates in the slot, I'm not too excited about that. I want those guys on the outside. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think I think that true slot receiver,
Eli.
Yeah, Eli Rogers has been I really like him. I think he showed a lot last year, and I know it was just preseason, but the coaching staff has been really high on him.
When I look at these guys' sizes, Eli Rogers fits that slot receiver role to me perfectly. 5'10", 187.
Yeah, and he put up numbers in Louisville. It's not like this guy just come out undrafted and never had any numbers to go with it. He had over 1,000 yards receiving. He was the go-to guy in Louisville. So, when he went undrafted and I seen that they signed him, I was a little happy about that. Him and Shaquem Phillips, who is also on the practice squad, they battled it out last year. And Shaquem Phillips a little bit taller, but I think when you look at Eli Rogers was really the better receiver in camp. Not a real tall guy. What's his size
he's
there?
only 5'10". Shaquem Phillips is 6'2". But again, I mean. You have Sammy Coates, he's a big guy. You were going to have Bryant, he's a bigger guy. heyward-bey 6'2". You really don't need that 6'2" guy. I mean, you just want the best player out there, whether he's 5'8" or 6'5" at this point. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I mean, we're going to get to the tight ends here in a little bit, but Ladarius Green is almost a wide receiver per se.
Oh, yeah.
And there's a 6'6" body that, if you really want a tall guy to jump, that's got to be your guy. But, I think tall receivers, it's like, football, you don't just go off of 40 time.
Right.
You can't just go off of one dimension. You can't just put a tall guy in there.
Ask Lima Swede. But look, so you got Antonio Brown, you got the beast, like I was saying. Martavis Bryant was supposed to be your number 2. He didn't even show up to his drug test. What is that all about?
Well, a lot of reports said he didn't show up, and he's fighting depression, and he uses marijuana as a coping skill.
But is this saying he's fighting depression just something to get the fans off his back a little bit? Maybe you come up with it. Hey, feel bad for him. Don't hate on him.
It could be a PR move. It could very well be a PR move, or it could just be the guy likes to smoke weed.
Yeah, I tell you what, between Martavis Bryant and Le'Veon Bell, kids, it goes to show if you smoke weed, you turn into a freakish athlete and make millions of dollars.
No, but so what's the moral of the story?
Yeah. No, but okay, so Martavis Bryant is out. Is Sammy Coates? I mean, we seen in the playoffs last season, not that he had a huge game or anything, but he showed his upside to me just with those 2 catches he had. I mean, he caught the ball and he took it downfield on his own. And really, I mean, they say that the one thing he can't do is catch the ball very well, you know what I mean? But neither could Martavis Bryant, really. Martavis Bryant dropped a lot of passes last season, and he still excelled. So Sammy Coates is a beast, freakish athlete, and I think he could do sort of what Martavis Bryant did. Although, I mean, seriously, Martavis Bryant, he can catch the ball while doing a flip.
Well, and Martavis Bryant is a pure athlete. He's got the height. He's got speed, and he's an athlete.
Coates isn't as tall as Bryant either. He's only 6'1" compared to Bryant's 6'4".
Yeah, Sammy Coates is built like Anquan Bolden. He's a young Anquan Bolden.
Well, I hope he blocks like him.
They said he's very good at blocking. He's got a lot of upside, and I think the coaches are really excited about Coates, and I am too. I mean, not only did he catch the ball well against Denver and run after the catch, I mean, that was Chris Harris Jr. on that side.
Right.
This is the guy that's shut down, so... and he ran right by him like he was standing still. So that's exciting. I think Wheaton and Coates and heyward-bey and Bryant, and then I really believe Eli Rogers
as the number 5 guy.
Saying there's no injuries, Eli Rogers is your 5th guy. I don't see them drafting a wide receiver. They haven't interviewed very many at all. So
and like you said, Shaquem Phillips, they just brought him in recently as well. So I mean, they're gonna try to give him a chance here in camp as well.
Yeah, and he showed some promise too. They got guys there. And there's a Levi Norwood.
Yeah, Levi Norwood. They have Tobias Palmer, Isaac Blakeney.
Levi Norwood was RG3's receiver at Baylor. So
yeah,
tall guy. He's a taller guy too, isn't he?
Yeah, he's 6 foot.
6 foot. Yeah, well, he's not super tall then, but. They got guys, and they know how to, and they'll sign some in undrafted free agency again, and they always seem to find that guy. I don't know how they do it, but as bad as they are scouting defensive backs, they got the other side of the ball. I guarantee you that. That's
what they found. Antonio Brown, 5th round, 6th round, 6th round.
Antonio Brown was 6th round. Emmanuel Sanders was a 4th round pick.
Yeah.
I mean,
Hines Ward was a 3rd round pick, I believe.
Hines Ward, yeah, I think he was a later round pick. I mean, these are guys that just, they find them, and Sammy Coates.
I mean, that's the thing about receiver too. I mean, yeah, you find your beast in the draft, and you want to draft them high and everything, but you can find sleepers all over the place at the wide receiver position. And I mean, running back sort of like that too. You can find a good running back in the 6th round sometimes if you take a chance on them or whatever. But receiver, I mean, you can turn these guys into great wide receivers like the Steelers have been doing for years now.
And before we move on to another position, I just, I like Martavis Bryant, but I'm not a real big fan of him. Very good athlete, and I know, I might have haters on this, but you got to look at how many times he ran the wrong route last year.
He's definitely not perfect.
And I understand that receivers do run the wrong route, but I saw consistent, route running that was wrong, and been through 2 picks that were. Going to that on 3rd down, and those are game-changing plays. So, I'd almost rather have a guy that's running the right route. He's going to be there.
Yeah, you got to remember that. He's only 24 years old still, so he's still a young guy. And if you look, I mean, without him, you're pretty much getting younger, too. You got Sammy Coates and Eli Rogers are both under 23 years old. Shaquem Phillips is very young still, too. So you're probably still going to see those mistakes next season if these guys get on the field until they get a little bit older and mature in the game and everything, you know what I mean? So you're going to see mistakes out of these young guys or whatever, but when they have talent like Martavis Bryant and Antonio Brown and hopefully a Sammy Coates, I mean, you can overcome that, too.
Yeah, and I agree.
I agree with you that Martavis Bryant, and I think Jim agrees, I think Easy agrees, JK47 agrees, everybody at the spread really agrees that Martavis Bryant, it's okay. He's gone, whatever, it's okay. The Steelers are going to be fine offensively without him.
Yeah, they're still highly, and I mean, you're bringing back Le'Veon Bell too, which was missing for 12, 13 games last year. So,
right,
that's you're adding something to the passing game right there. And look, there's people that say you can't have too many weapons. you can only throw so many footballs.
Yeah.
I mean, Antonio Brown had 100. You can't have 4 guys getting 100
Right.
passes, and I never, I'm telling you, as a football team, you never want to be one-dimensional. So, I think they got still, and adding Ladarius Green, let's get to the tight end position.
Well, hold on real quick. One last question about the wide receivers. Where are you lining Marcus Wheaton up?
Well, right now, I believe Marcus Wheaton goes to your slot. I think Sammy Coates is going to end up being the number 2 receiver. I really, they didn't call it yet. They said that the number 2 wide receiver is wide open. So I think Coates goes to number 2. That gives you Coates and Brown on the outside, and that puts Wheaton back in that slot position. But one thing about the Steelers is they don't really call it a true slot. They put guys on the field and they create mismatches. That's just what they do. I seen Darius Heyward-Bey in the slot, and he ran a post for a touchdown because they knew it was a mismatch. Right. So sometimes that slot thing's overrated. I mean,
it is, but I think Marcus Wheaton actually, I don't know. I kind of like him on the outside more than I like him in the slot.
Well, and I think you're going to see him on the outside too. I think
right.
I think you're going to see times where Coates might be in the slot. And like you said, last year I saw times where Antonio Brown was motioning across the field in the slot. It's all about mismatches, and in Steelers, that's what they're about. And you look at New England Patriots; they run across the field too. Julian Edelman should be a slot guy typically, but he's the number 1 guy, and he lines up outside, inside. Gronk will line up outside. Gronk's been in the slot. The slot receiver is kind of underrated. I know you want a guy to throw it to quick, and Martavis Bryant was kind of the quick.
Yeah,
quick.
Completely surprised me.
Yeah.
He was the guy they ran reverses to. It was very surprising to me that he had that kind of game.
Yeah, and I think I'm curious to see what Sammy Coates can do with that this year. So, a little excited about that, especially with Brown getting all the attention. So,
all right, now we can move on to tight ends. You lose Heath Miller. Thank you, Heath Miller, for all the good years as a Steeler. We're always gonna keep you close to our hearts. Obviously, we love you, Heath, but Ladarius Green, man, we went into this offseason. Me and Jim did a segment talking about free agent tight ends and who they could bring in or whatever. And Ladarius Green was the one guy that we both wanted and said there's no chance of him coming into the Steelers. We never thought it would happen. Now we got him. I think they upgraded at this position, to tell you the truth. Now, he's a better blocker than Ladarius Green. But this just gives you more in the passing game. And if Martavis Bryant was out there, this offense would look disgusting this season.
Yeah, going into this, again, love Heath Miller. You're going to miss the blocking. I mean, Heath Miller was a tackle out there that could catch a football. But, towards the end there, you could see that, things were starting to go downhill for Heath. Tremendous career.
Gets hit
classy
in the head
guy.
all the time.
Yeah, classy guy. But they bring in Ladarius Green. We talked about, you can only have so many weapons. Yes, but this guy isn't just a weapon. He's a guy that can stretch a field. I mean, he can downright move. I'm not sure what his 40 time was. I believe it was 4.5 or 4. It was really high.
Yeah, I'm not quite
really,
sure.
Really low, actually.
Really,
yeah.
I mean, if you look at this guy's career numbers, you're like, he's a decent tight end. But the problem was he was behind Antonio Gates all those years and only got playing time when Gates was hurt usually. I mean, he'll get some playing time in the game when Gates is healthy or whatever. But I always consider Green a guy that could be a top-end tight end, a top 10 tight end in the NFL. And I think the tight end position for the Steelers this season is deep. I mean, yeah, you had Heath, Jesse James, and Spaeth last season. Now it's Green, Jesse James, and Spaeth. And I expect Jesse James to take a step forward this season as well in the passing game and in the running game as a blocker. But Matt Spaeth, you have as well. Are you going to keep these 3 tight ends on the roster all season long? That's a question. But Matt Spaeth, definitely the one you want when you're definitely running the ball. You know what I mean? He's the blocker there.
Yeah. I believe those 3 sound like the immediate starters, but you can't rule out right now Xavier Grimble, who's on the roster. They were really high on this guy last year. He had an injury, but he's 6'4", 261 pounds. So if and that's all Matt Spaeth does. He's basically a blocker.
Right.
You don't see him out and about very much. Jesse James definitely can do a little bit of both. Jesse James did improve his blocking as the time went on there. But and Ladarius Green, the report on him is, they lined him up in the slot a lot. But they said he's a decent blocker for his size. So, I don't think that he's going to, we're definitely going to miss Heath Miller blocking. But,
right.
Again, stretching the field, the idea is if we can get Antonio Brown one-on-one, by adding people that can stretch a field or other people that creates attention, or vice versa. Antonio Brown gets double teamed. Now Ladarius Green's one-on-one.
Right.
Sammy Coates, Mark Sweeten, Le'Veon Bell.
So what kind of numbers do you see out of Green this season? We know what Heath did. He never put up elite-type numbers in the passing game. Ladarius Green is a better receiving tight end than Heath. Are you going to see elite numbers from Ladarius Green, or is it just the Steelers type of offense? You're just not going to see those type of numbers?
I don't think you're going to see elite because of how many weapons are on there, on that team, but I think you're going to see the match of receptions. Actually, I think even a little bit more. He caught 30 to 40 passes behind Antonio Gates. So, now, we're saying you're the man. So
I'm excited. I can't wait
to
see
Ben finds the open guy. And when he gets in trouble, he throws to Antonio Brown. So used to be Heath Miller was his cushion, and you can see now that it is Brown. I think that's just something that's going to continue to be the case. But I think Green is just a mismatch problem. I think that added a whole nother dimension to the offense. And I think they got the right guys to do this. And I know they've been looking, too, at the tight end position in the draft, which we'll talk about in the draft segment. So I think they're okay at tight end as well. So
yeah, I don't know if I'd draft a tight end at this point with all these tight ends you got. I'm a big Jesse James fan, to tell you the truth. I think that guy's going to be good. In fact, last season when we did a 7-round mock, you actually picked him in the 4th round, 5th round, something like that, I believe it was.
Yeah,
and you were dead true on that. And Jesse James,
yeah,
gotta love him.
Steelers always tip their cap to guys they're going to draft. I mean, they sent the whole house to Penn State Pro Day, including the tight end coach, to watch this kid. So,
well, they were going to take what's his name from Baltimore. They wanted to draft that tight end out of Baltimore. I can't think of his name right now.
It's slipping my mind too.
Yeah, he was the top tight end in the draft, and actually Baltimore took him right ahead of the Steelers, so they just waited a couple rounds and went for Jesse James, and I'm happy with it. I think Jesse James can be just as good as that guy. I can't remember his name right now, though.
I don't know why.
I want to say Max Starks.
Max Williams?
Max Williams.
Yes. No, I think that was a couple years ago, wasn't it?
No, Max Williams. That's who it is.
Okay. Yeah, you got the Max part right. But, yeah, and, he hasn't really... It's not like he tore it up either, but I think they're set at tight end. I think they're the receivers are loaded. The quarterbacks are, I think they need a backup offensive line.
Yeah, well, sticking with the offensive line here, you got 2 good centers. Now, how healthy is Marquise Pouncey going to be, and is he going to be able to stay healthy all season long? That's a question. And you got Cody Wallace backing him up, but I mean, we were sitting out here in your living room talking, and they're bringing in centers right now.
Yeah, Jeff Swartz, guard, who has started for the Giants, and Stefan Wisniewski, who is the starting center for 16 games. So, yeah, they're still looking at, and these are guys that can play center or guard, so they are flex positions like Cody Wallace.
Does that say more about Cody Wallace or more about Marquise Pouncey at this point?
I think they're worried about Pouncey. I mean, he broke his fibula. He's had multiple injuries, and I really like Marquise Pouncey, but we're talking about guys that, future contracts. I can't see them extending Pouncey right now. Pouncey's an issue. We talked about Le'Veon Bell. And, I did want to bring this up in the receiver section, but Antonio Brown, pay the guy what he wants. I mean, look at the difference when he's on the field and off the field. He is a true difference maker. When Bell was not there, we still produce. With Brown not there, there was a big difference in the offense. That's all I got to say.
I agree with that completely. How about guard, though? You got David DeCastro and Ramon Foster.
Yes, and I was so glad they signed Ramon Foster. I am a Beecham fan, but Ramon Foster has come a long way from Tennessee, undrafted free agent. I actually had him, I remember when I was doing the draft, I had him ranked high coming out of Tennessee. He was supposed to be a 4th-round pick. So when they signed him after the draft, he went undrafted.
Yeah.
I was pretty happy with that. I was like, wow, that's really good. But 3 years later, he gets the starting job. So, Ramon Foster's been, and actually without Pouncey, he was the one calling the whole offensive line. So that was, that's like your quarterback of the line. So, Ramon Foster was a big piece to that line. And on the other side, you got David DeCastro. He's gonna be Pro Bowl after Pro Bowl.
Are you signing him long term?
I am. I don't think you get guys like that very often. I think we saw how valuable that line can be, and when that line's valuable and Ben's vertical and the running game's clicking and passing game's going, then
Yeah,
we're
as long as Big Ben's been here, I don't think the offensive line has been better than it was last season.
no, that was one of the best offensive lines I've seen, even back to the Super Bowl days.
Yeah.
I mean, this offensive line is pretty solid from start to finish, and even the tackle position. We lost Beachum, you have Villanueva, and then they just signed Ryan Harris, who was a 16-game starter for the Super Bowl champions.
So, you also got Marcus Gilbert, obviously.
Yeah, Marcus Gilbert on the other side.
What about Mike Adams? You done with him? I'm done with him.
Yeah, I think Mike Adams played his last down. He's still injured, and I really feel it's not like there's a lot of money wrapped up in him.
Look, he has 5 years experience and he's 26 years old right now.
Yeah, no, you hardly ever seen him play.
Yeah.
I've seen a couple guys go by him, and that was about it.
If he gets this much playing time every season now, he could probably play into his deep 40s.
Well, he needs a new setting. I think another team might be what's good for him. But I think they're pretty set there at the tackle position.
All across the line, really. I mean, like
yeah.
I said, you got two centers. Usually teams don't have two centers that can go in and start for you. You got more offensive tackles than you're going to start. I mean, the guard position, you have guys that you can move around, obviously, too. So I think you're very, very deep this season on the offensive line. And, they say it all the time. You can never have enough offensive linemen, but I think they almost do at this point.
Yeah, and don't forget about B.J. Finney. He got hurt last year. He was a guy out of Auburn they were really high about on the practice squad. He's a center guard guy, 6'4", 318 pounds out of Auburn. He'll be either be on the practice squad again or, he'll be seeing time. I think why they're looking for a center guard is two reasons. One, Pouncey's health. And two, I mean, if there was a weakness on the line, it was Cody Wallace. Can he be an every down starter, or is he just a spot player?
I mean, when you have Marquise Pouncey on the team, he got to be an every down starter.
Yeah, that's right. So I think that's why they're looking for a guy like Wisniewski to, if they do go down, they got a guy who can come in there and you not have to worry about it. So, and if you actually watch, I was watching some of the film from last year, they were chipping with Wallace. They were trying to help Wallace. There was times we couldn't get to the linebacker because we were helping Wallace block a nose tackle. So, and that's what happens though. That's what happens when you put a backup in. But for the most part, he did all right. He had a lot of penalties, but I just don't think he's your long-term answer.
All right, so taking a look at this offense, we went through every position here. If there was one thing you had to upgrade or some way, somehow, what would it be? What is their weakness offensively?
Backup quarterback.
Well, got to give me something better than that, man. Nobody gives a crap about that guy. The only time we cared about a backup quarterback in Pittsburgh was prior to Ben Roethlisberger and after Terry Bradshaw. Those 30 years in between that, we liked the backup quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, to pick one spot, I mean, it has to be left tackle. That has to be the biggest weakness on the team. I mean, Villanueva played solid, but he's still young. And Ryan Harris is a guy that we don't know much about. I mean, those two are your left tackles. There's nothing wrong with that.
No, not at all.
And this is a good problem to have. We're not talking about,
I'm going to say the biggest problem on the offense, Todd Haley. You suck, dude.
I'll bring back Bruce Arians.
Well, we're already 35 minutes deep, man. I didn't realize how long this segment was going to be. We didn't even get into the defense, though. So do you want to break it down into two segments? Just make this the offense. We'll do defense next.
Yeah, we'll do defense another time.
All right, sounds good. So we're going to wrap this up here. We went over the offense. Should be one of the elite offenses in the NFL, even without Martavis Bryant. I still have questions about Todd Haley, though. I'm seriously someone that does not like Todd Haley, and I think if we had a better offensive coordinator, this team would be putting up 30-plus points per game over the course of the season. But you know what? I also got to give him a little bit of credit because playing in Pittsburgh, one of the worst fields in football, it's going to be tough to put up 30 points a game. At home, at least. You know what I mean? When you're playing in a dome or something, it might be a little bit easier. But I'm still not a Todd Haley fan. I wish we had someone else. In fact, I still wish we had Ken Wisenhunt.
Yeah, I did like Ken Wisenhunt. He was the guy that, he wasn't afraid to put in a play when it was needed, not just to do it. And
yeah, his trick plays.
He always had you guessing.
Todd Haley's trick plays are a 9-yard pass from the 9-yard line into the end zone from Antonio Brown on a reverse, dude. It is ridiculous. Makes no sense.
Yeah, and I like the wide receiver screen that they can run, but it becomes too predictable. They kept lining up in the same thing or motion into the same set. So even I was yelling out wide receiver screen before it happened. So it got to get ugly there.
It's been 2 years in a row now too, where they're saying they can be a 30-point per game offense, and it just doesn't happen. Now, 2 years ago, I think it was Todd Haley's fault. This past year, I mean, a little bit of him, but also so many injuries as well. I mean, you got to give him a little bit of credit there too. Without Big Ben, it's going to be hard to score 20 points a game, let alone 30.
And without a good quality backup quarterback, so.
Yeah, believe it. I like Mike Vick and all. He's just past his prime, obviously. I like old veteran quarterbacks, but when it's a running quarterback, it just doesn't work out when he's 40 years old or however old he is at this point. But Michael Vick, he needs to stay in the NFL because he is in debt. So he needs to make some cash money so he can pay off those debts. But we're wrapping this up. If you want to hit us up on Twitter, you can check us out at bet_the_spread. Like us on YouTube. That is youtube.com/betthespread. And go subscribe. What is it? Subscribe, friends. I don't do Facebook much. What do you get on there? Like, subscribes, friends. I don't know what it is. But you can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/betthespread as well. That's Jim's department. I probably won't answer you there, but I may answer you on Twitter. Probably not. Just hit us up on YouTube. That's where I'll see it.
And I'll never answer you, so
believe it.